All right, hearing none, we'll move
Hey,
on.
Bill.
Oh,
Bill,
yeah.
sorry. I'm just wondering if maybe we can get an update on some legislation in Montpelier that has to do with land use planning at the local level.
I'm going to
Yeah,
give a legislative update as part of my staff report.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Chip. Thanks, Catherine. Right, hearing no other, we'll move on to introductions. I would like to share, I was going to say, introduce first some new members, but I got to look and see if they're on. I don't see Reg. I don't see Nicole. Oh, there's Nicole. Nicole is new, representing.
The town of Swanton.
There we go. Thank you very much. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm happy to further introduce myself. Hi, I'm Nicole. I sit on the town of Swanton Select Board. I'm also the executive director for Swanton Recreation. I love Swanton and everything about Swanton, but I also I'm really happy to be part of the Northwest Corridor of Vermont and Franklin County. I grew up in Vermont, but I am not a native Vermonter as I have Boston roots, but I love everything about the lifestyle, and I'm really looking forward to be part of our area's growth moving forward.
Well, great. Thanks a lot, Nicole. That's a nice intro. And I don't see either Donna. So we do have, it's Donna Buchanan, is that right?
There's Donna Bohannon and Donna Romeo.
And Donna Bomia, yes. So Donna Bohannon is from what town? I forgot.
Alberg.
Alberg and
Both
Donna.
of them. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Two in Alberg. That's been a long time since we've had two from Alberg. And welcome to them. Either they'll join us a little bit later or we'll see them as time passes to the next meeting. We'll then introduce the rest of the crew here. We'll start with Andy.
Andy Alling, North Hero.
Bob.
Bob Bierman, South Hero.
Lynn.
Lynn Douglas Fletcher.
Barclay.
Barclay Morris, Grand Isle.
Harold.
Harold Garrett, Town of Swanton.
Kirk.
Kirk Waite, Georgia.
Lynn.
I already went.
Oh,
Still from Fletcher.
yeah. Al Vogel.
Al Vogel from St. Albans Town.
Amber.
Amber Soder from Fairfax.
Thank you. Peter.
Peter Zamor, South Hero.
Great. Sylvia.
Sylvia Jensen, Isle Mont.
Yvonne.
Yvonne Danduran, Franklin.
Great. Brian.
Brian Doobie, Fairfield.
Barry.
Barry Lamke, staff, Housing for All.
Chip.
Chip Sawyer, City of St. Albans.
Dea.
Dea Devlin, staff.
Dean.
Dean Pierce, staff.
Elizabeth.
Well, that's a good question. Elizabeth and Nance. I was Swanton Village, but if Reg is official, then I might be a member of the public.
So, Catherine and I don't know you probably do know if it's official yet.
I just confirmed it. Elizabeth sent me a note and I just looked through my notes and it looks like it was official for both the town and the village that Reg is now the representative.
Well,
As,
it gives us,
as I put in my note to Elizabeth, I'm not ready for her to be done.
Well, clearly I'm not ready to be done either, but I guess I'll just listen in as a member of the public.
great. And again, thanks for so many years of wise participation on our commission.
Does that mean I still can say when I had a couple of updates to the minutes?
Wow.
We're gonna miss that.
We'll have to ask staff about that. Marietta.
Marietta Shelton, St. Albans Town.
And there was a Howard.
Howard DeMars, Grand Isle, currently suffering from video issues, but hopefully you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you, Bill.
And Linda.
Linda McCall, Bakersfield, also video problems.
I believe I got everyone, but it is not impossible for me to miss someone. If I did, please. Actually, I've got Catherine and myself. I'll introduce myself. I'm Bill Irwin from Bakersfield, the chair, and then Catherine.
Hi, I'm Catherine Dimitrick, Executive Director.
Great. Did I miss anyone in the roll call? Very good. Thank you all. All right. So Elizabeth, you can take a stab at this at opportunity for public comment on the agenda if you'd like.
I have no other comments other than the 2 or 3 things that I noted on the minutes.
And are you going to send those to Catherine to?
I did, and they were very minor, just a couple of words or a comma here or there, so nothing of substance.
Okay. And if there's no other public comment, I'll wait for a moment. I don't think there's anyone else logged in. Don't even see phone numbers. We'll assume not. Are there any other comments on the minutes and motion for the minutes from February 2023 meeting?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as written.
Would you make that as amended by Elizabeth's
Yes.
minor? Very good. Thank you.
Second.
Al, thank you. We have a motion and a second to accept the minutes as presented to us, but with the minor editorial edits that have been suggested by Elizabeth Nance. Is there any further discussion? Seeing or hearing none, all in favor of approving those minutes, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Say nay. And any abstentions?
I'll abstain, Bill, since I got called out last month and missed the meeting. Howard
I will
DeMars.
also abstain because I am new to the group and was not here.
Very good. Thank you. So we have 2 abstentions, but the motion passes. We move then to the commission
Bill.
report. Oh, yes.
Bill, I'm sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to let you know that in the waiting room had been Lori, Reg, and Sarah, who I just let in. So my apologies if you were there for a while and I didn't see you.
So, Reg, are you able to show your, I'll go ahead and say it, pretty face, because I know Reg well, and I can say that.
Go
And
ahead.
maybe,
Dr. Irwin, you can call me anything you'd like.
yeah, why don't you introduce yourself, Reg?
So I think most of you probably know me, but my name's Reg Beliveau. I recently retired village manager for the Village of Swanton, and now I'm special projects coordinator for the Village of Swanton. And I guess I'm taking the seat from Elizabeth Nance, I believe.
That is what I heard, in fact, tonight. And very welcome to you. I am so excited to hear that news.
Thank you.
So you're welcome. And then you said a couple of others joined us from the waiting room as well. Lori, yep. Lori, you want to just introduce yourself as part of our normal introductions? Okay, she may not be able to.
And then Sarah.
Sarah. Oh, Sarah. Yes, thank you. Sarah, do you want to introduce yourself, please?
Sure, Sarah Had, Town of Fairfax.
Very good. Thank you, ma'am. All right, we'll move on then to our commission reports, and we start with our treasurer, Kirk Waite, for finance and operations.
We did not have a meeting this month. There is a financial report that's in here that was put in by Catherine and the team. We'll note that it doesn't include the budget adjustments from last month, but that will be corrected for our next meeting.
Very good. The numbers looked good to me this month. I appreciate the work there. Are there any other questions or comments about the presentation of the balance sheet budget, the profit and loss budget versus actual?
I have one, Bill.
Yeah, go ahead, Harold.
Just one, Kirk and Catherine. In the budget for equipment, is there still money available in that budget?
You mean in our money that's been set aside?
Yeah, no, for, for operation of in the office. Reason I'm asking, I don't know if it's the proper time or whatever, but any way that we can buy a second owl. Because we've lost our owl for our TAG meeting because it was somebody had already signed it out for another meeting. So we don't have an owl for our TAG meeting. Is there any possibility we can buy another owl?
We do have some space in the budget for that line item. Yes, I'll talk to the powers that be about making that happen.
I'd appreciate that because, it is very helpful for us because some people can't make our TAC meetings, and that owl would be really helpful. And if there is any money, if there's not any money, I understand it, and we can maybe do it in July after the new budget starts. But if there is some money, maybe we could possibly buy a second one.
So I have not used that tool much. Is the staff and others who are aware of it on here who have used it? Are you happy with the performance?
Very
happy. Yes.
Yeah, I'll say the city got an owl and we should have gotten it 2 years ago.
Yes,
It's amazing what it does for remote meetings.
From a remote perspective, there seemed to be a learning curve, but it's pretty effective now. Mostly to do with the mic being close enough to everybody.
Yeah.
But the
We
last
got it figured out, well, Bartley.
great. What?
We did get it figured out, Bartley, at the last meeting.
And about how much does a setup cost?
I think the last one we bought was in the $700 or $800 range. So it's like buying another laptop.
I mean, I think the reality coming out of the pandemic is we're going to have more meetings like this. Hopefully we'll get back to some meetings in face-to-face as well, but we're going to have more meetings like this. So it seems like it would get a fair amount of use.
Yeah.
Great. Thanks, Harold.
Yeah, thank you all.
All right. So I will report next for, Lori, you have a report for personnel?
Yes, the NRPC is hiring a project manager, and I did not respond yet, but to Catherine's email to me today, but looks like they're ready for second interviews in the next week, 10 days, 2 weeks. So we'll get that set up so the personnel committee can do those second interviews. Catherine, are we 1, 2, 3? The way you worded it, I wasn't sure if there was one candidate or.
Right now, we have 3 that we're doing first interviews with staff, and then the
Okay.
ones that go from there would go to personnel committee.
Okay, that's what I thought. I wasn't, so I'll get back to you later about that, but that's, the personnel committee will have a meeting or 2 in the next 10 days.
Okay. Great. Glad to hear that's moving along. For the executive committee, we met, and big part of that meeting was for this one, the code of conduct that we'll be looking at a little bit later, and also the agenda overall. Anything to, oh, let's see, Bob, you've got a project review report, I'm sure, in the packet.
Project review, we looked at, surprisingly enough, we only had one program that we looked at, which was a subdivision for 5 single family houses. Normally we wouldn't look at those, but it's a site that's covered by Act 250 already, because it was trying to remember, it was a sand pit. So this is actually a reclaimed area, which is actually a good use for this application. We found it was in conformance to the regional plan, and did not was not a substantial regional impact.
All right, so
I
no
think it was one of our shortest. I think it was one of our shortest project review meetings we've had in generations.
Yeah, so no action is needed this week or this month, so thank you for the report. There are collection of reports available in the packet for you tonight. For TAC, is there anything you would add, Harold, about your meeting?
It's in the report. On our March 9th meeting, we reviewed and discussed the edit of the transportation charter of the regional plan. And there was some very good comments, some really good comments coming out of the islands from our TAC members from over the islands that were not put in. And they've been added to the list of, the report. And we also reviewed the update from VTrans on regarding the changes to the annual, how we prioritize the prioritization process of projects that get the state puts out, and how the numbers come about. And so we had a really good discussion on that, as we always do. And I believe Bob and Barclay, that will be coming before the whole board to review, maybe next month, Bob.
I don't remember the actual dates, but yeah,
Yeah.
as along with everything else in our whole plan, it'll all come forward.
Yeah. But it was very good. We got a lot of good comments. So, and that's one of the reasons we're bringing up the OWL, because we don't want to leave the guys out that can't get to the meeting at that particular evening, if they can do it by video.
All right, thanks, Harold. We'll move on to energy and climate. Al, anything to add? If you're talking, Al, you are muted. I can't tell.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Said we are continuing our review of the draft regional energy plan, and everything went well.
Great, thanks, Al. And thanks for taking on that committee. That's going to be a big project for us. We'll move on to brownfields. And who is reporting for brownfields tonight? Is there anyone? Is there staff that might, or Elizabeth, were you at the last committee meeting? So in the packet, kind of tough to go between.
I was there. I'm sorry, I was there, Bill, to answer your question. I'm just not sure the appropriateness of me
Yeah,
reporting out.
okay. So everyone, if you look at what's page 12 of your packet, there's a paragraph about the 6 South River Riviera Hotel site and Village of Swanton and Young Landfill site in Highgate. So the Brownfields Committee is active, and we'll be looking for a new chair there, and reports from that will be a little bit easier.
And I just, Bill, I'll supplement the written report that Greta did, because she always undersells her work. The application that she's putting in is for $1 million recapitalization of our revolving loan fund cleanup and grant and loan program. So hopefully that will be successful.
Great, great. Thanks, Greta. Will that work? Regional Plan Committee, who could speak to that? As Lynn, maybe you're able to? Got a little bit here in the minutes. I guess we really got a good agenda item. We can make sure that we cover it later, but this is ready to read. That's the big thing, is get on your best sitting in the hammock reading clothes for a nice warm day. Hopefully we'll have one of those so you can read the new regional plan so that we can take action on that soon. We'll talk more about that later. All right, and don't see any meeting for Municipal Plan Review Committee. And Al, how about the Vermont Economic Progress Council?
They're meeting tomorrow, and there's nobody on their agenda for our region.
Okay, thank you.
Al,
Yes.
I'm sorry. I'm here, but I'm not. I thought Montgomery was on for the wastewater.
When I looked at the agenda, I didn't see that.
Yeah, because FCIDC is going to be on there supporting that application.
Okay, I looked last week and I didn't see it. Sorry.
That's okay.
I won't be able to attend though. I'll be wait, I'll be able to attend it via Zoom.
Okay, great. And then we have Green Mountain Transit. The board was supposed to meet in February. Anything to report there, Bob or Catherine?
Actually, we met in March. That should have been 3/21.
Okay.
I was trying to go through my notes. I don't really see anything real exciting. We had a lot of visitors at our last meeting relating to the activities in Barry. And we're in the process of purchasing new fare boxes for the Burlington, for the urban buses, as we prepare to institute fares again in that area. I guess that's the biggest thing.
Okay.
Anything else to add, Catherine?
Only if you know a CDL driver or a licensed mechanic that needs a job, GMT's hiring.
Actually, I am trying to recruit for that. I found a couple people, maybe.
All right. Anything to report from Healthy Roots Advisory Committee, Lynn?
No, it's all there. They're doing great work, and you can read all about it.
Very good, thank you. And indeed, it is worth reading. There's, again, many pages of work for transportation, emergency management, municipal planning, energy, water quality, and then the Healthy Roots is there on the last page of staff reports, just before Housing for All. So do take some time to look through those and marvel at the work of the fine staff here. We then move to the Northwest Vermont Regional Foundation. We had no meeting on that. Is there anything else to report at all, Kirk?
No, nothing to report.
Thank you, sir. And we'll go to staff for reports that any of you would like to make. And I'll let you start. Simply open up your mic if you have something you'd like to share with the commissioners.
Dean, do you want to go ahead?
Sure, Catherine. Just happy to report that both of the Basin Water Quality Councils that we support as the clean water service provider met recently, and they began the process of reviewing applications for funding. Several applications were approved in each of the basins, although each council is going to continue discussion of a couple of others. So those are still in the balance. But after many months of work, the councils are starting to approve projects, and we are going to be following up with the paperwork so that we can get the available funding out the door.
Great. Lots of work to get to this point and 12 applications. That's fantastic. Hopefully we'll continue to see progress there. Thank you very much. Anyone to follow Dean?
Daya, do you have anything you want to add before I jump in?
The only thing I might add is that we had a fun rain garden and infrastructure workshop that we hosted in St. Albans last week, and we had a pretty good turnout. We had a couple people show up in person, and then we had another 20 people show up online, which is fun.
That's great.
This is Barry. Just a quick note on housing. Received a lot of great press for our housing needs assessment. And we're going to be hosting 2 municipal officials meetings, April 13th and April 20th, and just wanted to share that. We've been putting it out on the website and the e-newsletter and sharing it with commissioners. So please share with your team.
Yeah, thanks, Barry, for reminding everyone on that. You can see those again. This is in your packet, in this case, page 15. Both of the calls are at 6:30 to 8:30. The first, the 13th, the second, the 20th. You can also attend in person, the Enosburg Emergency Service Building for the 13th and North Hero Community Hall on the 20th. And great work there. We heard about it last month, and we'll continue to discuss some more tonight with Catherine's report.
Okay, so apologies in advance. I have a bit of a longer report tonight than I might normally do. Did want to touch on legislative stuff, as Chip brought up. There's not only housing bill going through the legislature this year, but there are a lot of other bills that actually impact municipal operations. So I'm going to touch on the housing bill briefly and then just give you some highlights of the others. And I would really recommend if you're a person that's super interested in legislative items, the Vermont League of Cities and Towns does a weekly legislative report, and they also do a weekly briefing. And that is really a good go-to source for the goings on in the State House. I liken the legislative process to like a soap opera. If you watch it every day, there's always something happening. But if you step away for a couple of weeks and come back, it's largely the same. But sometimes big things happen on a day-to-day basis. And so the League of Cities and Towns really is the best source for keeping track on a regular basis. So there's a bill S100 that we noted in the legislative update to the board. And I think we've talked about it a couple of times in commission meetings. And it is a bill that includes a lot of things about housing, including changes to the state and local regulatory process. So it preempts local zoning in several areas and also changes Act 250 jurisdiction on housing in several areas. Right now it's in the Senate. It's been through a couple of committees there and it's headed to the floor. And there's a series of amendments that would make changes to the bill itself. Those were scheduled to happen this week, but they've been delayed, I think, due to the absence of one of the key legislators. So it's kind of up in the air what will happen to that bill with the Senate. I think it will pass, but the actual form it will take will be, it's really still not set. And then it goes to the House where it has a less than certain future with the committees that will be reviewing it. I participated early on in the committee that helped put together an earlier draft of this bill. And I did testify that I did speak at the governor's press conference about the bill I guess it was last week. And the point that I made was that any bill on housing that changes a regulatory scheme needs to have a balance of both state and local changes, that it can't be expected to only make municipal changes, that there needs to be some adjustments to Act 250 and other state permitting as well. In addition to housing, there are bills that impact stormwater regulations at the municipal level and who pays fees into stormwater utilities. There's an extension of the municipal preemption for cell towers. It would sunset this year, and it gets this bill would extend it for another couple of years. There's a bill that would shift appraisals from the local level to being managed by the tax department. There's a couple of bills about emergency medical services, one that provides funding and one that looks at a regional dispatch model. There's a bill for local option sales taxes to allow towns to make that change without having to get legislative approval. So it would just be voter approval, probably won't happen in time for South Hero. So there's a special provision in there for South Hero to be able to move forward with their local option tax. And from a financial perspective, the House Appropriations Bill includes an increase in funding for regional planning commissions, not the full increase that this board requested at the last meeting, but a substantial one that would result, if it stays through the process, would result in about an increase in our capacity of about one full-time person, which is pretty significant. And it also includes an increase in the municipal planning grants and almost doubling of the funding available for municipal planning grants, partially by combining a couple of different grant programs. So there's a lot going on in the State House this year that impacts municipal government, and definitely would recommend checking out the Vermont League of Cities and Towns website if you're interested in paying attention to the details on a regular basis.
Yeah, thanks for that hint. I've been looking at that and while you were talking, and really it's rich.
Yeah. I have other updates too, but do you want me to take questions on legislative stuff? As I'm looking at my list, I realized I missed one of the important ones, which is a bill that would make a permanent extension of our second temporary extension, allowing fully virtual meetings of public bodies.
Yeah, why don't we see if there's any questions on what Catherine's reported on from the legislature.
Okay, by other items. So there's funding that's going to be available for municipalities that are considered needy or under-resourced. That was passed with the Budget Adjustment Act. There are 6 municipalities in our region that are at the second tier of eligibility, and 1 municipality in our region that's in the top tier of eligibility, and that's Isle of Mont. We're going to be working with the Agency of Administration to be in contact with all those municipalities to see if they will be interested in accessing this funding. It's specifically for capacity to help those municipalities better access the ARPA and other infrastructure grant funds that are available. And it's going to be prioritized based on the neediest and most under-resourced communities. We hope that by May 1st, we'll be able to have a lot more information to give to all of our municipalities that are eligible and help them access these funds. It's I think, going to be a really good opportunity. The thing we forgot to put in our staff report is that we are helping Franklin County Field Days, working with Franklin County Industrial Development Corporation to support field days in their need to relocate from the airport to a new facility because of changes that are happening at the airport. So we're working with field days and state officials to try to find funds for feasibility study and then funds to actually make the property purchase and move. And a reminder that we have an open meeting law training on Thursday night. If you're interested, there's information on our website and in the board packet. And then finally, the last update that I have is this year marks 50 years of Northwest Regional Planning Commission. So stay tuned for more. Now that we have the biggest work on the regional plan done, we're going to focus on doing a little bit of work to figure out a good way to note and mark our 50th anniversary.
Are you going to put that on the cover of the regional plan as it comes out?
We should. Yeah.
Good, good. Wow, 50 years.
Mm-hmm.
Who was the first executive director?
Russell Green.
Oh, really? Okay, I knew him.
Russell Green, and then one more who I can't remember, and then Sharon, and then me. Yeah, not many of us.
Right.
Yeah, next year I will have been here for 30 of the 51.
Wow.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Well, those are two great.
We hired a 9-year-old director.
That's right, you sure did. I was student of the week in elementary school.
Bill, quick question. It's Sylvia.
Yeah.
Were all the regional planning commissions formed at the same time?
No, they weren't. There's a big, there's kind of in chunks. And we actually, the Franklin County portion of it formed much earlier. The 50 years is when Grand Isle joined together and it became the regional commission.
All right.
Yeah.
Awesome. I look forward to celebrating.
Yeah.
Yeah, we definitely should make one of our meetings in the spring some sort of recognition of that, maybe at some place special where we could, again, be someplace, maybe even outside. That would be great.
Yeah, we were talking at staff about going through the files and pulling out the greatest hits, all the things that you may have forgotten the commission did.
Yeah.
We used to run the transit company out of our office.
Wow.
And I would suggest we drop pizza and have an open bar.
That'll be an anniversary to remember.
Okay, I've learned something about Al tonight. That's great. Okay. Well, thank you, Catherine.
Thanks for your patience. I had a lot to go through and really a lot legislatively going on. So.
And thank you for what you do to represent the Northwest Regional Planning Commission, the 2 counties at the State House. It's really important. Catherine and I were talking earlier today about trying to describe that process so it's a little bit clearer for all of us. And we'll work on that in the executive committee and then bring that forward here. So it's a little bit more obvious to all of us how we do work to represent those 2 counties and our municipalities. All right. Did I miss anything from staff that you would like to share with us? All right, not hearing any. We'll move on to our really huge work of the year. It's been actually both years that I've been here that we've been working on the regional plan, and I haven't been as much a participant as I would have liked, but I hear about it when I drop in. It's wonderful to hear the progress that's being made, and now here we are ready for review and adoption. So who would like to be a part of this agenda? Just, you want to kick it off, Catherine?
Yeah, I have a brief presentation I'm just going to give, and then certainly welcome other members of the Regional Plan and Policy Committee to jump in. So, as Bill mentioned, the writing is done largely. The Regional Plan and Policy Committee has in their hands the final draft of their work at the committee level. And once they meet in April, they'll make any final changes, and then we're going to send it in the mail to all the commissioners. So we thought it would be helpful for commissioners to just get a quick preview of what you're going to get, so that when it lands in your mailbox, you have some context for what you receive. So I'm just going to go through it really, really briefly. So what happened so far? So we've done some pretty extensive public engagement, not necessarily part of the regional plan itself, but through our Working Communities Challenge, which we did largely in 2021. And then we've done additional outreach, meeting with the Regional Development Corporation boards, the community partnership. And then we were active participants in the Northwestern Medical Center Community Health Needs Assessment. And they did a very extensive public engagement, which included focus groups and interviews and general public surveys. And so we relied on that for a lot of the feedback and didn't want to repeat the same process with the same people. So the Regional Plan Committee has been working over the last year to review, to give policy guidance and review drafts. And as a result, we now have a complete regional plan draft. So if you're not familiar with our regional plan, it does have a requirement in state law that we have these 11 different sections within the regional plan. So it's very similar to a municipal plan if you're familiar with your municipal plan. It also has to comply with the state goals in all of these areas, whether it's childcare, using natural resources, flood resiliency, safe transportation, Vermont's land use goals. Our plan has to comply with all of the state statutory goals. So what's in the new draft? So we try to keep our overall approach of keeping the plan concise. You'll see it's about 100 pages, which for regional plans actually is concise, given that we have to include all of the things that you just saw on the past two slides. We try to make sure that the data that's in there is important and useful, and that we try to make sure all of our policies are clear and unambiguous. And those were some things that we carried over with the last rewrite that we really tried to make sure we maintained in this draft. There are some changes in this new draft that you will get. The first thing that you will notice is that there are 3 new topics that are woven into the plan that weren't there before in as great a detail. The first is that COVID impacts and opportunities and things that COVID identified for our region are included in the plan, both from a data and discussion perspective and sometimes in the policies. Equity and inclusion has a larger, more prominent role, as does climate resilience and adaptation. All of the sections included data updates with census and other data as it's become available. The housing section was completely rewritten based on the housing needs analysis that you got an overview of your last meeting. Other than that, the other sections, as Harold talked about earlier, had targeted in updates, really focused on what's changed and what are the new or emerging issues. The goals and policies, although we've made some changes to incorporate equity, climate, and other considerations, they are largely consistent with the current regional plan. So there were no major policy shifts that you'll see in any of the goals and policies. The format of the plan, we group our requirements into 3 sections: the economic region, the social region, and the physical region. So you'll see the plan broken up in those 3 sections. Additionally, we include a section that's not required by the state statute, which is a community health section. And we think that that's a nice addition to the plan. And then the all hazards disaster resilience is also not required. We're only required to address flood hazards, but we expand it to be all hazards. So what's next? So as I noted, you'll get a draft of the plan in the mail in the middle of April. It won't show the tracked changes because it's really, really messy to try to show that. But if anyone is interested in seeing that, once you get your plan, certainly let me know and we can try to get you electronic copies that will show that. So after the board's initial comments in April, we're hoping that the board is comfortable authorizing that we begin the public hearing process. By that, you wouldn't be saying this is the plan that we endorse, but simply this is the plan we're going to seek public comment on. And then in May and June, we would do public outreach. The first public hearing would be held at the board meeting on May 31st. That would be an opportunity for members of the public as well as commissioners to suggest and make changes to the plan. The Regional Plan and Policy Committee would review those changes in June, when we would have some other public meetings interspersed in here too. And then the second required public hearing would be held in July. We wouldn't be able to make any more changes at that point if the board wants to adopt the plan in July. If the board wants to make more changes, we'd have to push adoption out to a future meeting. But this is the overall plan. So as Bill noted, it will be time to get comfortable and do some reading. To make the process and the schedule work, it would be ideal to have initial comments from the board in April and then the major comments from the board at the May meeting so that the Regional Plan and Policy Committee can incorporate any changes from the board through the month of June to be ready for the July hearing. So that's it in a nutshell, Bill.
That was great. I've shared this before, I think, but it was reading not the last regional plan, but the plan before that, that really helped me understand what we do in this Regional Planning Commission and really inspired me. The next plan came around and I had to vote to adopt it. So I had also understood a little bit more when I read it because of my participation in committees and the commission meetings. And it was really eye-opening then just to see the impact that we can make. So I hope you have similar experiences when you read this plan and again, feel the power that we can wield to try to improve life for our neighbors in each of our communities here through this planning process, and then how that gets extended into all of the committee work that so many of you participate in. So I want to thank the committee for all the hard work to get us to this point, the staff for incredible work to consolidate information into just powerful graphics that share so much with a picture that actually allows us to reduce the number of pages. So it's not just that a picture is worth 1,000 words. Sometimes a picture is worth 10 pages. And that's nice to do these days. So look forward to that. And again, I hope all of you can read it, provide some great commentary to improve it, and also get inspired by it. Anything on that overview from anyone else?
Yeah, if I could, I'd just like to say that I thought the discussion at the committee level was really good. We had some great conversations and policy discussions. I think that the plan really serves as a good indicator of the health of the region, and that it really serves well as a tool providing a link between state policy and municipal policy.
Thank you, Peter. Nice to hear that from inside. Any other comments or any questions of Catherine from her presentation?
Yeah, actually, Bill, I had one more thing we should also point out is for approval of the regional plan, it takes a majority of the towns to approve it as opposed to just a majority who's present at a current meeting. So we really have to make sure we have plenty of people. Actually, is a majority, is it 2/3, Catherine?
It's either 60% or 2/3. I think it's 60%. I'll have to look it up, but
So-
it does require a large number of commissioners to both be present and vote.
And that's the July meeting, right?
Correct.
So if all of you can just put something special for your July, I think it was the 26th, that last Wednesday of July meeting, to make sure that you can attend virtually or even no matter where you are, so that we can get that, whether it's 60% or 2/3, which is 67%, that's a lot. We'll need to make sure we get a lot. Thanks for that reminder, Bob. That's really important to share. All right. So
Bill, I just wanted to echo your thanks to the Regional Plan Committee. They've been meeting monthly, doing a lot of reading and having some good conversations. It's been a great committee to work with.
yeah, I'm looking forward to maybe being a member of that after I'm no longer chair, because I think that's a great committee to really get onto paper something important for the future. All right, we'll move now to our 7th item on the agenda, which is the Code of Conduct. We've been actually talking about this for a while in the executive committee, and we are being very deliberate about this to make sure that we are not just addressing a particular episode, but that we are looking at the whole of our responsibilities and roles as community leaders and as people that lead the staff at the Northwest Regional Planning Commission. And I think it's progressed very well, and I hope that you'll find that too in the copy that we have put into the packet for you tonight. Catherine mentioned tracked changes and how that can show you where things were and where they are now. That copy that's in the packet starting on page 16 is in that form. And I'll turn it over to Catherine, who's really been doing research, finding a variety of resources to help improve this from the initial reading that we had with all of you, as well as in the executive committee, to bring it to this stage here for possible action or continued work. Again, it's most important that we get this right, not done fast.
Thanks, Bill. I think you said it well. The changes were made to incorporate the comments that you made at the great discussion you had at the January board meeting. And then I got some follow-up comments from a few members afterward and incorporated them in, and the executive committee took a look at it at their last meeting. It was reviewed by the attorney initially. She had no additional comments, but was running it by a senior partner for just double check. But as far as her opinion, it all looked good.
Well, that's good to hear. We're really looking for that legal review, because there are some elements of this that begin to actually push us towards where there could be some legal action possible as a result of the particular scenario. So hopefully that others here from the full commission have had a chance to read this. And I'd like to take this time then to see if there are opinions, if there are suggestions, recommendations that we might consider for this, and then whether there's no need for further changes, and whether this might even be something we can move on tonight. But again, we're not rushing towards that. It's mostly to make sure that we hear everyone's voice at this point in time. So I'll open it up to comments from the commission as a whole.
I have one. It's quite simple. On page 17, the first bullet, I would suggest you change you, the second person, to once, so we go back to third. The whole article is written in third person, and you only once did I see it, the second person use you.
So you're talking about the second collection of bullets there, the first bullet.
Yeah.
Read all members of the board committee to which one belongs, or we belong.
Right. It has to be consistent, and most of it's not even first person, it's third person.
Right.
Simple.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I'm just, as I ensure that there's time for people to read it if they haven't had a chance, and please do take the time now. It's relatively brief. It can be read in a few minutes. But we really believe that this is long overdue, and also a really good example of what we've tried to do these last couple of years with our focus on justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion.
Hey, Bill?
Yeah.
I think is a good example of how we should act all the time. And that kind of leads into my question. If this is only supposed to govern how we act when we're acting in the capacity as commissioners, then I might have a suggestions for a couple tweaks that would sort of create those distinctions. Otherwise, I think we should all be aware, if this is assuming that since we are commissioners, that we're supposed to act this way in nearly all capacities, we should just be aware of that before we adopt it. But otherwise, I think a couple little tweaks could just sort of focus it on when we're acting in an NRPC capacity. So I think we should decide which way we're going with this thing. I know there are some codes of conduct, especially terms of employment, that govern your own personal social media activity for different reasons. And I don't know if we're going that way with this, if that was the intent of this or not. If it's only supposed to be for when we're acting in an NRPC capacity, then there might be a couple tweaks. That's all.
I think that those tweaks would be welcome, Chip, if you wanted to pass those along, because we did have numerous questions about the breadth of this, and particularly how it spills over when you represent your community. It's not just when you are here in these meetings, but it actually is likely to spill over into your possibly being recognized as the NRPC rep for your town. And that's important. And if you've got some places here where we might want to focus, I believe that we've all talked about this in the executive committee and here in the full commission, to ensure that this is wonderful for our life if we choose, but it really is a professional code of conduct related to the work of the NRPC, the representation we make both at the commission and in our municipalities.
And I should highlight that I remember this being a really big point of discussion at the January board meeting is among the commissioners is where you wanted that to apply and recognizing that there could be an instance where someone is not on official NRPC duty, but acts in such a way that could have impact under this code of conduct. And so one change that was made since the last version to address that is on page 17. The language where it says conduct and carrying out duties of the board or committee, and where it says NRPC is striving at every meeting, forum, and other official interaction, etc. That originally was in the introduction, in the purpose of the policy, and instead here was moved to this specific place in conduct carrying out the duties of the board or committee. So the general idea being that the first part of the code of conduct where it talks about general conduct, acting reasonably, not being abusive, complying with the laws, that would be a general applicability, and then the more specific stuff falls under when you're acting as a commissioner, if that makes sense.
So my tweak there would just be members of the public, and we could change it to and members of the public when acting on behalf of NRPC, or acting as and members of the public when acting as a regional commissioner, something like that.
I'm trying to figure out how why we have to include that they are a member of the public when they are acting.
No, when we're acting as a commissioner and we're interacting with members of the public. I think that's the intent. That if I'm acting as a commissioner and dealing with members of the public, I should follow these rules. But without that qualifier, it could just anytime I, as Chip Sawyer, act with members of the public in any venue, then I'm supposed to follow these rules, which I would try to anyway. But I think that's an interesting part of the conversation is because we might be recognized as regional commissioners. Have we decided as a body that we only want this code of conduct to apply to our official capacity, or do we want us to follow this code of conduct in all of our public interactions of any sort?
Right. Yeah. It's perhaps elaborating on the words other official interaction to include, for example, other official interaction that may be perceived, including those that may be perceived by a member of the public as representative of the Northwest Regional Planning Commission. Yeah. Did you kind of understand what I was sharing there, Catherine?
I think so. I'm trying.
Yeah, so it says,
I'm trying to figure out where both of you are talking about that would want to be changed.
yeah, so first it's well, I'm not actually saying that we have to. I'm just trying to think about this out loud, I guess. But it's under the subsection called conduct and carrying out duties of the board or committee. And the added sentence that you referred to earlier, NRPC is striving at every meeting, forum, or other official interaction to treat every person fairly and with respect, regardless of any differences. So I'm thinking that Chip's point is that it could be covered by language like this includes interactions in public where the public perceives you as representing the Northwest Regional Planning Commission. That's not an official interaction, but it's an interaction with the public. It's a tough one to separate out from just you're playing horseshoes at the town celebration, annual celebration. Yeah. How do others feel about the delineation and separation of public and
Bill,
private life? Yeah, go ahead, Howard.
I'd like to touch on it a little bit, on how you delicately and as always, very politically correctly put it. But let's face it, we're all from very small communities. Members of your town do know that you're a member of Northwest Regional Planning. And those of you that I do know do conduct yourselves accordingly. And I think as a public official, you are held to a slightly higher standard, and perhaps you should be. You're in a position of trust within your community. You should set the example on how you should act in certain situations. And those of you that I know you have no problems with this. And I don't think it's too harsh to think that this could extend into our personal lives a bit as well.
Thanks, Howard.
Thank you, Bill.
Anyone else like to weigh in on? I think it's good that you pointed out, Catherine, that the first page and a half of the code of conduct is really somewhat organizational and aspirational for the commissioner, board of commissioners rather. But then where it starts with this conduct in carrying out duties of the board or committee, it really focuses on the individual. And that's where that care in language is important to either delineate clearly where there is a totally private time, and then all the rest is public, or however you want to describe it.
So Bill, I got my hand up if no one else is ahead of me.
Yeah, please do go ahead, Kirk.
So I recognize the intent of how we want everyone to behave all the time. But if we're going to have a code of conduct where we talk about implications of that code of conduct, I think we do not want to be in a position of policing personal interactions between people outside of, we set ourselves up to police someone reporting to you that they heard somebody make a bad comment at a horseshoe tournament, right? And now you've got to do this whole code of conduct investigation. To me, I think we're better off to keep this the scope where it is now, and we should keep the scope focused on our interactions as the Regional Planning Commission. That's my view. Or when you're acting on behalf of the Regional Planning Commission, right? But
yeah, I appreciate that, Kirk. I think that is really important. And the other side to think of this is it's not pleasant to think about this, is that there are occasions when people do have interpersonal relationship that is very sour, and it can invade the official components of community governance or guidance. And that could include here at Northwest Regional Planning Commission, where you could hear someone say, well, they violated the code of conduct, and it's being used in a way that we really didn't want. And so we have to be careful not to have language that would allow it to go too far. And I appreciate your trying to reel us in I particularly am comfortable with the language of incorporating in making sure that this is including all of our official interactions, not just those of the meetings, but any of those where we should, I think it would be fairly easy to identify that you're acting in an official capacity. For example, when I speak about the value of the Northwest Regional Planning Commission at our town meeting day, I'm doing so as it's an official interaction. But when I'm playing horseshoes later at the town 4th of July celebration, that's not an official interaction. It's very personal.
Bill, I got one thought.
Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, I just think we got a big undertaking right now. I'm uncomfortable kind of expanding the scope. And in the previous meeting in January, there was something about an article in Vermont Digger that might reflect negatively on the committee or the commission. I'm sorry, the commission. And I've had a lot of articles written about me that have not been accurate. And so from a personal level, I think the issue that was just mentioned by Chip is, in my opinion, covered under the paragraph that says act only as a member of the board/committee, not assume any individual authority unless directed by the board or the commission or the committee. And what that is kind of saying is the horseshoe thing is kind of, as you just mentioned, is kind of beyond the scope of this document, this code. And that's a pretty good start. So I'm more comfortable with, we've kind of nailed it when you're acting in with other staff or with other committee members or an official capacity, and let's see how it goes. I think that's a pretty good place to start. And, if we start, policing social media posts and, articles or letters to the, I get to be a little uncomfortable there. I think the spirit here says we're going to treat people with respect. We're going to embrace differences of opinions. We're going to try to conduct ourselves with decorum, all these other things that I think largely everyone does. And that's a really good place to start. That's my thought.
Thanks, Brian. And I really appreciate your pointing out that paragraph talking about our individual responsibility to act as we would want to be perceived as members of the Northwest Regional Planning Commission includes 10 bullets to define that. And you pointed to the fifth, that actually ensures that you're not authorized by this code of conduct to represent in your actions something of the commission that is not of the commission. And for that reason, it further clarifies that even if you're doing something personal, you're talking about your personal life, and that includes all of the things that you do as a representative of the community. That's not an official. You're not being authorized to speak relative to the commission itself. It's just you. And that I don't do social media, but I know a lot of people that do, and I'm sure that that's where some things can be really challenging, and that's an area to think about too. Any other thoughts or any actions relative to what's been brought forth here tonight?
Bill, are you looking for a motion to adopt the code of conduct as marked up?
So I'm willing to. I don't think that we have to, but I'm glad to take that motion and then have further discussion about it.
Would the executive committee like to take one more time to review the comments from tonight? Just to see if maybe a few, sounds like just minor changes at this point should be made before we take a vote on it.
I would support that.
I would too.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I think so too, Bill, because you don't want to, like you go to the horseshoe thing. Hey, we've had some really bad discussions on wind turbines and solar panels. And we're out there playing horseshoes in the public, myself or maybe you or somebody, and you don't agree with what the commission has adopted to let them go in there. And if you say, boy, they could have done a lot better job, and somebody says, well, you're negative, now you're, so we don't want to, right now, we're not like Washington, D.C., where we're slinging mud at each other a whole day long in Congress. So I think we've got a good handle on it, and I think that maybe just one more look at it, and I think you're ready to go from there. Thank you.
Great. Well, I like that. I think this has been a good conversation to have. I think I would ask then that all of the members of the executive committee read these changes that are crafted here in this particular draft of March 17th to be prepared to discuss any additional changes for in our next executive committee meeting for this code of conduct.
I would
Bill,
also,
And
do you need a motion to table this until next month?
No, I don't think so. I think we've not really actually brought this up as needing action. It's always been when we are ready for action. We've not taken any previously, so I don't think we need to table. If I know my rules of order adequately, is there anyone that disagrees?
I have one, I have
No
one
need for-
comment, Bill.
I don't think we've taken any motions in previous discussions.
Okay, great. So
Bill,
we'll,
Bill,
go ahead, Al.
I would just add to your comments about the executive committee taking the time to reread and study. I would also suggest that those of us who are not on the executive committee also review it and send our comments to you and Catherine.
Great. Yeah, thanks for that reminder, Al.
And Catherine, are you aware of the word changes that Chip had recommended?
I just sent it to her and Bill.
Yeah,
Great.
Chip kindly sent those along. It's
Great, thanks. I
asked
just
him
wanted to
and he
make
wrote
sure
it
we had a
down.
chance to consider his recommendations for our last go at this.
Perfect.
Oh, way to work.
The only thing I want to add is that I better be getting some invitations to horseshoe tournaments, because it sounds like these are the places to be, and I haven't been invited to one.
We just need to make sure we don't have a quorum at them.
That's right.
As long as you can all still stand to be in the same room with each other once you're done.
If
But
not,
if they
we'll be
aren't,
holding
at
metal
least they don't,
objects.
if they aren't, at least they don't have to worry about repercussions on the board.
Oh, so nice. So nice. All right. Well, thanks all for that discussion on the code of conduct. Our next item of business is extremely important. Actually, this is the third of extremely important items I've introduced here on the agenda tonight. We have our elections for committee chairs, for officers coming up in the summer, and it is the time now to have a nominating committee formed to seek nominees. We will actually have the elections in June. And as I noted previously, the regional plan was inspirational for myself. The other thing that's been really a powerful motivator for my being involved in Northwest Regional Planning Commission has been committee work. The committee that I've been most involved with throughout has been the project review and originally the policy and project review committees, where in project review, you get to see so much of what's happening in so many different areas. But there are similar kinds of values in being able to hear about the road projects in the Transportation Advisory Committee and hearing about the work to take brownfields and make them productive again in that committee. And in our personnel committee, hiring new staff to help us with getting the actual work done, and how important that is to hire the right people and to represent this fine organization in a variety of other commissions or committees that are taking our colleagues from the other planning commissions, pulling them together to accomplish work. So I would encourage all of you to engage, to look at the committees. We're going to have an overview of the open positions presented here. We have some background information about each of the positions here. And it's all meant to help you understand what you could get as a benefit from the work of our different committees. So you can see on page 21, the nominating committee guidelines, and 22, our 5 standing committees: finance, operations, personnel, project review, regional plan, and municipal plan review committees. You can see the current assignments with some vacancies. We do know that there are several people who are moving on for a variety of reasons and will need to be replaced. If you have an interest in being a leader, please do let Catherine and the nominating committee know. Catherine, would you like to carry this discussion on forward relative to the actual work of the nominating committee for tonight?
Sure, thanks, Bill. So according to our bylaws, officers of the commission can serve 3 consecutive terms. So no one that's currently in a position has been term limited out, but we do have 2 vacancies, one in the Regional Plan and Policy Committee and one in the at-large position. The nominating committee gets appointed every year, and it's an at-large committee that's different from year to year. They will meet probably just once. We usually can do it in one meeting where they go through the vacancies and potential nominees, both for executive committee and committee chairs, as well as our appointments to different groups like Green Mountain Transit and Vermont Economic Progress Council. So that nominating committee will provide a slate of nominations for the board's consideration at the June meeting. So a nominating committee is a great way to serve in a very digestible one meeting process where you get to help shape the leadership of the commission.
When do they usually meet, Catherine?
We pick a time and day that meets for the members. So there's no set time or date. It depends upon who's appointed from year to year. We find something that works.
Right.
I think even before the pandemic, we've done a few of those meetings just simply by phone.
We did. We had a couple of years where it was really easy, no vacancies. And
if you're a shorter person, I got off on a long-term one, but I would do the nominating. Bill, a committee that isn't listed. Years ago, there used to be Laz, Neil, myself, Barclay, and everything for the building. anything that needs to be done. Shouldn't we still have a building committee? I was a member of that, and I don't remember. Bob, were you on that committee also?
Yeah, I was on that too.
But, you know, for anything that needs to be done at the building, I don't remember what we called there, what we were called, but we'd meet out there at the building, walk around the building, discuss what needed to be done, how we could get it done at a, you know, put it out, bring it back to Catherine, take to the executive board. This is what we think needs to be done and maybe how we could fix it. And eventually we're gonna have more work done out there. And I was just wondering if there should be a standing building committee.
So we have other committees that aren't part of these set of committees, right? We could still have a building committee, but not have it be one of the standing committees, like we have an energy committee and others
Right.
that aren't listed here.
Yeah, absolutely. We wouldn't have a set date. We'd only be called if Catherine called and said, hey, the foundation down here looks like it could use some work. Maybe you guys want to come in and look at it, or the front steps maybe.
Have you been in our basement? Did you know that when you said that?
I've been in the basement. Yes, I have.
It's not that
I
bad.
thought we fixed that.
Temporarily. So yes, I think we can pull together a building committee if we need it. And the committees that are listed on this page are just the ones that are in the bylaws. So we do have a lot of standing committees we have other committees that were set up through different policies or actions of the board.
Right, but you had mentioned the TAC committee, but the TAC committee isn't part of the regional plan actually being voted on by the regional.
Right. The board
That
doesn't
is
set
done
that
by the
committee.
towns.
Yep. That's right.
And so TAC is one. Is there another?
Energy committee is a mix, so it's partially appointed by the board, partially appointed by the town or citizens volunteer, and the executive committee appoints. There's the Brownfield Steering Committee. There's the Working Communities Challenge.
So those
a
are
bunch.
so TAC is not ad hoc. It's very much ongoing, but
Yeah.
Brownfields is also very much ongoing.
And those were all established by action of the board. Same with the
Right.
energy committee. Yeah.
Right.
The same as we will potentially be adding a new one too, right? Which is for the ethics policy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And Chip, did you have a question? Did you go away? Oh, there you are.
Yeah, just is TAC the only other committee that is appointed by the towns? Okay. So
Yeah.
just wondering if there's if we are ever told if our town seat is unfilled on the TAC, just bring it to our attention, because sometimes we lose track of that.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
we can make it a point to fill our community seat.
Appreciate
Yeah,
that
and
very much.
our meetings have been pretty thin recently. We have a very small minimum number required, and we're still just barely making it. So any town, I would, as a member of TAC, I'd encourage towns to step up their participation, because we're making decisions about a lot of money that's coming from the state to the towns, and it really is to the advantage of each town to be represented.
Yeah. And I know that's off topic, so I'll get back on it by asking, Bill, how many people do we need for the nominating committee? What's our target right now?
Yeah, I think it was
Your
always
target is
5, wasn't it? I've served on it several times. I think it was always 5.
Mhm.
And I think we should have some action on that tonight if we could, for getting that committee acting to start the slate development. Harold, I heard you put your hat in the ring for being on that committee. And I don't want to say
Yes,
it unless it's true that you would.
Right. I, as I told Catherine and you also, Bill, if you don't have 5, I would make the 5th member if you needed one.
Great. Are there others who would like to volunteer for our nominating committee this year?
You can
Or
sign me
anyone-
up, Bill.
Great, thanks, Yvonne. I was hoping so, because you've done a great job with that. In fact, as chair for many years. Would you be willing to take that on again this year?
Whatever the board wishes.
And are there others who would like to be a part of the nominating committee? It's nice to have people who know the whole of NRPC and the committees and the people to make good matches.
I've done it a lot, but I've been having this little side text conversation with Catherine that I think I've removed myself from eligibility.
Wow, okay.
Wow.
Did you violate the code of conduct?
I will note
well,
that when Elizabeth served on the nominating committee, she ended up being nominated for an officer position, so it's. Bill,
I would hate to be in the middle of any conflict of interest.
That's for sure. Yeah, Catherine, you were saying?
that I can work with you to find 3 additional members to
Okay,
serve on
great.
the nominating committee.
All right. And if there's anyone else, please don't hesitate. If you might want to bring it up privately, that's fine too. But again, please let Catherine know that's the best way to have the work done. And I'm glad to participate in that as well, Catherine, if you need another person.
And Marietta, it's not like the hospital nominating committee. We really only do meet once and it goes pretty quickly.
All right. So we've got some volunteers. We've heard about the open positions. Any questions about any of the positions? I don't want to pretend that I've given them all of the description that they need. They are provided in some basic description there. And then the process would be that the nominations would be coming out soon for a vote in June. So in May, we would have those to represent for June's elections. All right. Hearing nothing else on nominating committee, there are a number of kind of commissioner announcement oriented pieces of information. We've got the open meeting law refresher, April trainings, May trainings, great stuff there. We heard about tonight the Vermont League of Cities and Towns, and second that thought of going there. If you have questions, comments, thoughts, interests. Are there other commissioner announcements for tonight?
Just a quick question for Catherine. The open meeting training meeting, did that go out to select boards? I know we have one new member here in Grand Isle. We also have a new chair, and
It went out to the newsletter list, so if people were if they were just elected in March, then they probably didn't get it from us yet.
okay.
We're hoping that other members shared
Yeah,
it.
on the agenda, it simply has a press here to get which I tried, and what I got was the meeting is not yet open. Can you forward the Zoom address so I can pass that along?
Yes.
Thank you.
I've got a couple things, Bill, if I could.
Please, go ahead, Ivan.
Couple things. Last month, we quickly mentioned about construction that was going to take place at the Highgate Airport. And it was brought to my attention just a couple of weeks ago by an owner of a plane pilot. It's one thing for these guys to bring their planes elsewhere and have them stored elsewhere while they're going to be doing this construction. I didn't realize that there were a business or maybe businesses are going to be affected by this construction. And they were asking if there was going to be some type of an open window here and there throughout the construction to either bring in planes, take out planes, people, I guess, that work on planes there. It sounded like that there was no open window for some of these to help out these businesses there. Am I off track there, or is there something that we can do or look into this to help them out?
Well, I don't know what we have. I know that the VTrans operates the airport system in the state and has some regulatory authority. Joe Flynn is the secretary of that agency. Not sure if we have any other contacts more local that could help. I would assume probably that would be a good place to start. Anyone have other ideas?
Yeah, the Franklin County Industrial Development Corporation.
Okay, so I could reach out to Tim.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I can start by that.
And I do know that George Coy did reach out to VTrans to try to get some concessions for the aircraft owners to get some extensions and some deadlines and some other work. So he's a good person to talk to.
Okay.
Yeah, I understand that the skydiving club that works there, Malone Parachute Club, is just not planning on opening at all this coming year.
Okay.
And you know, there's going to be some lost business there. Skydivers get thirsty at the end of the day, should I say.
Okay. The other thing I wanted to bring up is for TAC, that the town of Franklin had another accident at the intersection of 120 and Middle Road. I'm not sure if Harold knew about it or not, but I was going to bring it to their attention because I know it's on the radar and I didn't want it to go without someone knowing about it. I'm sure our our municipal rep was going to be bringing it up, but I wanted to make sure that Harold knew about it. And
I didn't know about the accident, Yvonne, but I do know at our last meeting that the state VTrans representative at our meeting did say that that intersection at 120 and Middle Road is in the process already, I believe. Is that correct, Barclay? That they were.
I think they have it on their radar. They're planning on taking a look at it, but I'm not sure whether they've assigned an engineer or they've gotten that far with it. But they're at least aware.
okay, I knew it was on the radar.
They were aware of the Missisquoi Bridge for 40 years too. So who knows?
I hear that. All right, thank you. And the last thing, very different topic. Just wanted to throw this at the board. Something that's I know everybody talks about twice a year, and I was wondering if we as a board could send a letter to our governor about this time changing thing that we do twice a year. For me, I find it the most ridiculous thing. Maybe we got different opinions out there about it, but I'd like to do something if we can to put an end to it. If not countrywide, at least statewide. Just throwing this out there. See if there's any feeds on it.
Well, I don't know what we can do as a regional planning commission, but certainly I don't think if there was a referendum, I think that the majority would vote not to change time. But right now it's before that there's actually a bill in the Senate. It did not get any traction in the House. And there appear to be powerful evidence for and against it from a variety of parties. The thing that weighs on me the most is the medical. Everything I hear about health is not good.
Right.
But I've not heard anything that our state is thinking of doing anything separately, and that's probably how it would have to happen. I know some states have literally said they're not going to change. Arizona,
Right.
they've got plenty of sun already. They don't need to save any. And some other states, that might be something to lobby through your representatives. Let's get the state of Vermont to start a revolution to not change the clock.
Well, I think there's a vast majority that agrees that we don't need to change the clocks. I think the battle is going to be over whether we stick with standard time or daylight time.
Stick with one. Doesn't matter which one. Let's stick with one.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I've actually heard
That's the problem though, right? Is half want one and half want the other.
Yeah, basically.
But it's interesting. I read an article that it affects a lot of transportation that we don't think about. That's one of the reasons it was actually started, so that you could know when the train was coming in your part of the country. And that is even more important now with air travel. So it's a big deal, and I'm not really hopeful that any small effort here is going to go rewarded well.
I think we should split the difference and be half an hour off from the rest of the world.
I like that idea. That's good.
Vermont exceptionalism.
You're probably not aware of all of those Newfoundland jokes in Canada then.
That's right. They do that.
There are some places that are half-hour difference.
Yeah. Well,
That's all I've got, Bill.
All right. Thanks, Yvonne. Always
Okay.
good. All right. Any other commissioner announcements? Or yes, please. I hear Howard.
I'd like to thank Greta for her invaluable help in helping the town of Grand Isle. We were recently rewarded with a municipal planning grant, which means a lot to our community. So thank you for that, Greta. And I'd also like to make a quick poke out to Bob Bierman. Hopefully you're considering staying the chair of the planning review, project review, because you do a great job. And lastly, thank you for everything you do, Bill. You're awesome.
Well, thanks, Howard. And thanks. I agree with your assessments of Bob and Greta, to all the staff, all those great commissions. And any other announcements or any motions for the close of tonight?
Move to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
Very good. Thanks, Chip. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you all. Have a
Thank
great
you,
night.
Bill.
This was a fantastic
Aye.
meeting.
Thanks,
Take
thank you.
care.
Good night.
Stay safe.